efficiency reduces. There's no discretionary effort from anybody anymore. People will do, what they can to get the job done. But that motivation, the morale in the organisation will absolutely go down. And that will go beyond the team. It will infiltrate into other, places across, because they'll be saying, well, do I want to work for an organisation that allows people to be treated like that? And people will vote with their feet, particularly, with the Great Resignation at the moment.
Oh, absolutely, and that's happening. That's happening definitely. Absolutely, and this is why I think just raising awareness is so important. Just setting setting everything clear and straight. Leading through fear is just the worst kind of way to motivate people. Unfortunately, that happens, but we need to really help change that culture. And it's the culture that actually dictates how, leaders treat employees and how other employees treat one another. So it's the culture actually then becomes very toxic when from the very top, processes are not put in place to prevent these kinds of behaviors. So I'm going to go back to some of the questions that we have. So I'd like us to talk a little bit about, what are some bullying behaviors? Because I think that's also very important to address, because a lot of people don't even know when they're being bullied. So what are some things we need to be aware of? Or some behaviors that we need to pinpoint?
Yeah, and so I tend to break them down into physical, verbal and psychological. And if we talk about physical behaviours, then what we immediately think of when we think about the image of a physical bully is somebody who is perhaps, wants to hit somebody or shake somebody, or they get right in their face and things like that. But there are also some really, really small movements, the kind of the microaggressions, the rolling your eyes, the raising your eyebrows, the glancing at other people as if you're sharing an in-joke and things like that. Or the slightly moving your body language, so you're moving away from somebody, so you just prevent them joining a group or something like that. It can be really, really small behaviours.
Subtle, right.
Yeah, really subtle. And then if we look at kind of some of the verbal as well, shouting, screaming, other kind of the overt behaviours that we associate with bullying. But again, the whispering about people, the starting rumours about them, and things like just not talking to people at all. Or even things like when we start to have those little bits of incivility where we cut people out of the tea room. Somebody says no once and then we never ask them again.
Of course.
Or someone's very quiet in the office and so we don't actually encourage them to join in, or we don't, ask them if there's a reason why they're not joining in or anything like that. And so we ostracize people, we isolate them, we push them to one side, and that social pain is incredibly damaging, and can actually be felt in the same way as physical pain in the brain. So it's really powerful. And I suppose the psychological side of things is, particularly we hear the word gaslighting a lot these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not always used in exactly the right way, but the gaslighter is essentially getting you to doubt yourself. So, they'll say, well, you said this, and you know full well that you didn't, but they've got you convinced that you've said it or you've done it. And they're manipulating your, your whole thought processes until you have such doubt in yourself and your own sanity that, you've got to a stage where essentially you can get to a point of psychiatric injury through that as well. So they can take so many different forms, but I think the really key thing is if you can catch them when they are those moments of rudeness, those moments of incivility, and say, I don't find that acceptable, or we as a team have agreed that is not acceptable behaviour. Are you aware that you're doing it? Let's catch them early and not let them escalate into those patterns of behaviour that do the most damage and do the most harm.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so important to know, just because a lot of times people might not know, they might not know they're experiencing it. and they might know, but they might not know how to deal with it. They might be confused and devastated, but then still stuck. Like this. What do you call it? The deer in the headlights situation, where
Yeah,
you're just literally because you're so shocked, you don't know what to do, right? So it's so important to kind of understand the varying ways that people can, yeah, bully
yeah,
others.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are other kind of work-related practices as well. So, the copying people into emails that don't need to be copied in, or leaving somebody out of them, not inviting people to meetings, not giving them the information they need to do their job. There are all sorts of kind of, work-related practices like that, as well as kind of the individual behaviours that can all contribute to bullying in the workplace.
Absolutely. We've got a few more comments I'd like to share. We have, thank God, he says, bullying is not what should be tolerated within the workplace environment. It can be traumatizing and contagious. And I think that's important about the contagious part, which you talked about earlier. Yeah, a subordinate that is being bullied and nothing is done can also start to bully others when he or she becomes, a boss. So the cycle of bullying continues. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point you raised there. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it is. It's about those entrenched behaviours, isn't it, that people just take on. So definitely. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Akere just said, hey, this is how you pronounce my name. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Akere. Got it. Thank you. Um, thank you so much. And then we have Paige. Paige says, neurodiverse folks experience that shunning and have been sanctioned for not participating in the break room, saying good morning. Yeah. Anyone with differences is at risk of being targeted by the bully, or just a lack of insight. That's also important too, right? What would you say about that?
yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And again, it's about if you have a curiosity about each other, then and a curiosity about different experiences that people have had and different lives, when you actually build that and you start to learn what is normal for somebody in their behavior and what is not normal for them. So if somebody is neurodiverse and it is normal for them to stay quiet, to keep themselves apart until they are ready to come forward, then that is absolutely fine. What if they suddenly, don't come forward at all, stop doing their job and withdraw even further, then that might be the time to say, okay, we've noticed that you've just withdrawn a little bit more. Is there anything we can do to help? What would you like us to do? What can we do to help you in this environment? And I think that's, getting to know people and the strengths that they bring. And it's that, we talk about kind of neurodiversity, but actually, I think diversity is really interesting for me in the workplace, because we quite often get is it just a tick box exercise for people? We're going to have a diverse range of people. Instead of saying, we have a diverse range of people with diverse cognitive diversity, as well as the tick box diversity, if you like. And actually, what strengths and creativity and innovation does that bring? But it will only bring that if you are inclusive to start off with. And the focus for me should always be on inclusion first, and diversity will come as a result of that. It's people will want to work somewhere that is inclusive.
Absolutely.
They won't want to work somewhere that is diverse just for the sake of being diverse.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's the key word. I mean, inclusion, right? So you nailed that in the head. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should maybe talk a little bit about we've talked a little bit, but I think we could maybe go a bit deeper into the consequences. Like, what are some of the consequences of workplace bullying? I mean, we know people are resigning now, like more than ever.
Yeah,
What are some other things?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms from an organizational perspective, the cost of conflict in the UK has been estimated at £28.5 billion a year. That is just over £1,000 per employee in the workplace. Now, that is looking at things like not just your direct costs of, perhaps having to pay somebody off to leave, your settlement agreements, your legal cases. Because actually very few cases get to a court. This is about the loss of productivity, the loss of trust by the workers in the organisation.
Right.
It's about the time spent on trying to sort these things out. It's about the recruiting new people when somebody's left. And actually, it's not just, the bullied individual who might leave or the alleged bully who might leave an organisation, but usually there's at least 2 other people that will leave as well. So that's a huge cost of, absolutely getting, new people in, but training them up and getting them back up to speed as well. But it can also damage your reputation. And if you look at an organisation like Brewdog that was held up as a good model, and now recently having all the publicity that it's had in terms of the way that it's treating its workers, it's lost customers, it's lost stakeholders and investors, and it's lost staff members. That's massive for an organisation, and to recover from that is, really hard to do.
Yeah.
From an individual perspective, then the impacts can, they are multiple. There are the psychological impacts, the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks, all of those things that go with it. The physical impacts as well. So whether that's headaches, tiredness, tearfulness, it can be digestive problems are really common.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Losing weight or gaining weight is very common as well. We have the behavioural changes. So, we turn to coping mechanisms, and quite often they're not positive ones. So they can be, drinking, smoking, overeating, undereating, things where we feel like, we can be in a little bit control of something, might be the undereating approach. And then basically all of that, what we had so far, we've had psychological, physical, social impact as well. So your relationships break down, not just within the workplace, but actually externally as well. Because one of the key things around workplace bullying is rumination, the going through it in your head
over and over again,
and wanting to talk to everybody about it and wanting to draw people in. Really really wanting a sense of justice, because feeling that you've been wronged in some way. And then of course the financial impact as well, where you might be off sick, you might lose your job. If people have been severely impacted by workplace bullying, if it has got to trauma, then for some people they will never work again. A lot of people become self-employed, but some people will actually never work again. So then they're, into the benefit system and things like that. So yeah, it's
that's devastating. That is devastating. And I know, in terms of people just taking sick leave as well. People can take, lots of time off, and that costs. I know in Europe it runs over billions of euros. Yeah, absolutely,
definitely. And some people end up on sick leave. They might get quite a good deal to start off with from their employer, or they might have an insurance scheme, but because it has such a long-term impact, quite often that will run out.
So now we've looked at the consequences, I think perhaps we could pivot to what are some things we can do to prevent it? Like, what are some preventive measures that can, that organizations, leaders, people managers can put in place? Stop workplace bullying.
I think what's really, really interesting for me is that what we have at the moment are a set of processes and policies and procedures which are incredibly damaging, both to individuals and organisations. And at the moment, what we do is if somebody comes forward with a bullying complaint, we will say to them, well, here's the bullying and the anti-bullying policy, and here's our grievance policy as well. So we're automatically pushing them towards going into a formal process, which is where most of the cost is and most of the damage is done.
Right.
What we need to do is we need to turn that around. So we need to actually really focus on prevention and early intervention. The first thing has got to be education. If people don't know what bullying is, how can you stop it? But alongside that, okay, these are your bullying behaviours, but let's, as a group, let's talk about what are the value-driven behaviours that we want to see in the organisation? What conduct do we agree on? And let's hold ourselves to that conduct and agree to hold each other accountable. Let's include those value-driven behaviours in the way that we appraise, supervise, and manage people. So those are really key things. Let's pick up those moments of incivility and rudeness really early on. Let's have facilitated conversations. If you can't have a direct conversation with the person, get someone to facilitate it. And if you can catch it early enough, then mediation by somebody, it might be that you need to go external, can help as well. If it's gone on for too long, that might not be the way forward. Might not be the way forward at all. But all of these early intervention processes, the conduct agreement, the facilitated conversations, the mediation, coaching. So I will go in and coach people, and it just helps them kind of look inwardly. And I don't focus on the story and what's happened. I focus on the making sure that they feel safe. Because that's the first thing that somebody needs more than anything else. They need to feel safe again, because that's what they've lost. They've lost their trust in humanity, and so that's really, really important that they feel safe. So, as an organisation, working on psychological safety as well.
Right.
Yeah. So that, we've talked briefly about speak up campaigns there. The psychological safety model that I use is Dr. Timothy Clark's 4 stages of psychological safety.
Yes, very well. Yeah.
Inclusion. And what's really, really interesting is there's 4 stages there. There's inclusion, making people feel like they belong. Then the next stage above that is actually about it's learner safety. So feeling safe to learn about different things in the organisation, which includes the culture. And then we go into contributor safety, where we feel safe to contribute, to do our job, that we can grow and develop in those roles. But challenger safety is the one that's most difficult to achieve, and that's where people will speak up, where they will challenge the status quo, where they'll say that something's wrong. Right. Now, if you are feeling bullied, the chances are that as it starts, you'll go back down. So you might have been contributing, you speak up and you get punished for it. And therefore you withdraw and you start to go back down that. If it's really bad, you might actually go straight from speaking up to feeling excluded. Absolutely. So you're not even into inclusion, you are feeling excluded. And yet we are asking people who feel excluded to go right to that challenger safety and speak up. And you can't do that. That you are asking them to do something so incredibly risky. Then why would they want to do that? And that's why so many people don't speak up. So you have to build that psychologically safe environment, and it has to be grounded in inclusion. If you haven't got inclusion, then the rest of it doesn't have that really strong foundation to work on. You have to make people feel that they belong, right? That they are part of the bigger organisation. So,
yeah, we're just trying to kind of capture some of the things you're saying. I think it's so. I mean, a lot of people are really latching on to the idea of psychological safety, and building a psychological safe environment is so integral to building inclusivity and addressing some of these issues, especially when we see bullying and not say anything, because we don't want to get caught in the fray as well. So people go into the protection mode. Well, I don't want to say anything because if I say something, then maybe I'll get fired, right? So we need to create a psychologically safe space so that people can challenge the status quo and can speak up and speak to power. So this is a very good point that you raise here. That's fantastic. Yeah. A lot of people are commenting. I don't know. Do you want to jump in here real quickly? We have Eyre. She says, training and retraining of all staff in an organization on social interaction empathy is essential. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying previously around, raising awareness and educating people.
Yes, yeah. And also the emotional intelligence. We talk about, I'm glad you put social interaction and empathy, because we hear all the time about listening with empathy. Yes, but if you don't change what you do after that, then it won't make any difference. So you can listen with empathy, but you need to act with compassion. And that takes it that stage further. And that, for me, is the biggest thing that we need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're putting that psychological safety everywhere in it. But have a look at the Leader Factor website for the one model that I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I can just quickly share on the. I can quickly type this up. Actually, I think Timothy Clark. You can look him up.
Yeah, Dr. Timothy Clark with an E, and it's the 4 stages of psychological safety.
Just look him up online, and of course, Amy Edmondson. You can spell her name correctly.
Yeah,
I think it's O-M and. I'm sorry if I spelled her name incorrectly. Amy Edmondson, and Timothy Clark. These are 2 scholars in the field that you can definitely follow. Right, we've come close to almost to the end of today's episode. But I definitely, Nicki, I want you to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. I mean, a little bit more on what you're doing, where people can find you. A lot of people are quite engaged, so they might want to, follow you on LinkedIn. So if you're not following Nicki, like seriously, you have to. If you're in a workplace, if you work if you're in a work environment, if you work in a work environment or in a workplace with people, you're managing people or you're a leader, please connect with Nicki. I mean, we don't want to be reactive. We don't want to wait until something goes wrong. We want to be preventive. We want to already create that foundation. So, Nicki, tell us a bit more about where to find you and what people can do to connect with you.
Okay, so gosh, you can find me all over the place. So the website is conductchange.co.uk, and on there you'll find links to the training that we offer around awareness and prevention, but also psychological safety assessments and training in that area as well. I do coaching, so I coach managers in terms of everything from their style and preventing them going into burnout, through to the real intervention coaching when there is a bullying case. But it's all behaviour led, what I do. So, but lots and lots of information on there. And we've also got a resources page on there. So it's got links through to different reports that I found useful. It's got some of the webinars that I've done previously as well. So, go and have a look on there. There's loads of stuff on there. I'm on LinkedIn. So Nicki Eyre, Conduct Change, and Stop Hurt at Work. I have 3 pages, so you can't avoid me.
Wow.
We're on Twitter as well.
Fantastic.
At conduct_change. So all over the place. We are trying to get the word out as far and wide as possible.
It's absolutely needed. Thank you so much. And I have to tell you, people really enjoyed today's session. I have Eyre. She says, I love this conversation. I only wish that it can be implemented here in my country. And gosh, I feel that pain too. I completely do.
Well,
thank you.
There's a lot of people around the world trying to make a difference. So you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And Annette says, many thanks. Are there any courses I could take? And I mean, they can connect with you directly, or you said you also have some webinars that you have out there, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Annette, just connect with, I know we're already connected on LinkedIn, but, just drop me an email if you want to come on any of the training. So yeah.
Oh, great talk about a very important topic. Thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing that. Yes, I mean, love the support. Thank you. Thank you all. And Eyre also says, well done. She's a great fan. Thank you so much. Thank you. Gosh, Nicki, I felt like time just went by so fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's because this is a topic that is so prevalent. And I mean, obviously we can talk about it, but, we really need to put some action points, like you rightly said. Yes, talk about it all you want, but we need to see real action, real plans. To really be more preventive, to have a more preventive stance to bullying. So I have to say thank you for
it is
wonderful exchange. Thank you so much.
It's much more complex than people realize. So let's all get learning and changing.
I love that. Let's get learning and changing. Yes, remember that. Let's get learning and changing. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to end the broadcast. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I will be connect with one another. Let's keep building this community. It's always great to see you all, joining in and sharing. Oh, wow, we've got one last one. I'm not going to let her. I'm definitely going to share what Paige said here before we leave. She says, so many insightful folks. Absolutely. We can change the world. Many thanks and one love from the US. Oh, Paige, that was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you all. And yes, until the next show, be well. Thank you so much and goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.